Well, welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. It's time now for the week that was. Let's take a look at the top stories that made headlines around the globe this week. And we're starting in Katsina State, the northwest of Nigeria, where President Bola Tinubu landed on Friday to commence a two-day official visit. The president inspected a guard of honor before addressing troops of the Nigerian Armed Forces there. He said he is deeply humbled by their courage, sacrifice, and unwavering commitment to the peace and unity and security of Nigeria. President Tinubu told the troops that their fight in Katsina and across the country is not just a battle for territory, but a battle for the soul of Nigeria. President Tinubu is expected to lead a stakeholders meeting with the heads of security agencies to discuss issues concerning insecurity in Katsina State and the rest of the country. He also commissioned two projects, including a multi-billion naira Katsina State Agricultural Mechanization Center built by Governor Diko Rada's administration, as well as the Eastern Bypass Road. Tinubu has found it within his heart after going to Paris and London to go to Katsina State to, of course, help us commission a road and an agricultural center.
What do I send sarcasm?
No, I think it's fantastic. He's in Katsina State. I think it's lovely. And he's also, I believe, today going to be at the governor's daughter's wedding. Yes, there's
some sarcasm in there.
It is fantastic. That is what is moving our president. I find it, it's lovely. I mean, beyond, these things of, particularly when we have all these, Tinubu should win 2027, he should serve 2 terms, with all the politics that's going on right now in Nigeria's space. Even in the media and the things that we're discussing, politics has been the biggest topic. We have to consider that just last weekend, over 20 people died. In northern Nigeria from terrorist attacks. And when we're talking about insecurity in the country, the president is our head of the security apparatus. And I would have expected, with everything that's going on in Benue and Plateau State, even in Edo State and in other states across the country, that the president would have been more sensitive to those issues. But he is sensitive to a wedding in Katsina State.
Okay, so the sarcasm is confirmed.
It is sarcasm. It is, but,
the president should also go to weddings and then have a good time.
The president should, but here's what I would say. Just like the story we're about to talk about with regards to Workers' Day, we cannot the issue here is the idea of isolation. The fact that the people feel isolated from these issues. So there's, you want to go for a wedding, that's fine. You want to commission a road, that's perfect. You're the president. Do it all. But the thing is, you must give every situation equal measure. And insecurity is not, it's not just another problem Nigeria has. It is a big issue. As a matter of fact, I would even say it's on the top list of issues that we have to see. Kidnappings are happening every other day in the East. People cannot just say, oh, you know what, I'm just going to drive from Port Harcourt to Anambra State or Imo State into... You cannot just do that because the roads are not safe. You stand a very high chance of being kidnapped. Guess the worst part of this, it is normal. So you hear people were kidnapped and people say things like, oh, they should have known now. This place is not a safe place. Nobody trapped. It doesn't make sense. So we've normalized that. Then we now talk about the killings in other parts of Nigeria as well. These things are happening. It's not it happened or it was happening. It is present, continuous. It is happening at this time. So when we hear stories like this, as much as they're beautiful, it doesn't add up to us and it doesn't impress us because we might have all the most beautiful roads in Nigeria. We might have the perfect infrastructure. And we might also hear that the president is talking to security chiefs as well. But like I said before, we've heard all this. We don't want to hear that you're talking. We don't want to hear that it is in the works. We want very clear solutions now.
Okay, I get your point. I appreciate the sarcasm. I also get the point that, clear-cut solutions are needed. But my takeaway from the president's visit to Katsina is that it's remarkable. Because what we are seeing is that we are seeing on the one side his duties as a president, and on the other side we are seeing his duties as the commander-in-chief. I do not think that if I'm reading about or watching a clip of the president visiting Katsina, that what will stand out for me will be that he's commissioning a road or that he's attending a wedding. I think that those two will strengthen the fact that the commander-in-chief is in a state that is encountering issues of insecurity. And I think that that is important. The things that we hear about Katsina should not just be about insecurity, should not just be about the fact that a former president, the immediate president, Buhari, is from that state. It shouldn't just be that one of the biggest critics of the current administration, Professor Usman Yusuf, is from that state, but also that the president thinks it is important to have a 2-day state visit there. And I think that that's what his team is trying to communicate. If along the line he attends a wedding, I think what that sort of communicates is that the city or the state is secure enough for the president to be welcome. It's secure enough for that sort of social gathering to happen there. And I think that as a commander-in-chief, we should commend him. What we should encourage, in addition to that, would be to say that don't limit it to Katsina. Go to Borno State, where a governor that was almost going to run as his, running mate, is saying that there are issues of insecurity there. That is the state where the vice president is from. Let him go to Borno, for weddings, for commissioning, but also to communicate the fact that as the president and commander-in-chief, I can be everywhere. Let him go to Plateau. It is important for him to visit Plateau. It is important for him to visit Benue, to visit Edo, any part of Nigeria. But we shouldn't say that because he has decided to go on a 2-day visit to Katsina, that all we see is Owambe, that all we see is that he's commissioning road. It's infrastructural development, but of course it shouldn't be limited to that. It should meet with the service chiefs there. It should give clear cut, as you have demanded, instructions as to how to end it. It should visit Zamfara, visit all the naughty areas in the country and ensure that security is guaranteed. But then Owambe is part of, communicating that
Do you
safety.
celebrate when you're sad?
Sorry?
Do you celebrate in a time of trouble?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
You celebrate when you're in a time of trouble.
It depends on what you consider to be trouble.
Insecurity, isn't that trouble?
You still celebrate.
You still
Life,
celebrate.
Even,
That's
even,
where
even
you
in war,
communicate
people
that there's
still
safety.
have birthdays. However, I do think that
It depends on how you, I think it's the how you celebrate that matters.
But I also think, ultimately these things, when we're talking about the signal of him, maybe signaling that Katsina is safe by him going there or attending, it's also a very different situation for a president to go with all his security, with the DSS, with the support of all these different people, than for the regular lives of the regular people who live there. But I think Kachi's giving us our next story.
Let's just move right on to another important story. Millions of workers across the world on Thursday this week celebrated International Workers' Day, which is also known as May Day. May Day, okay. Well, this day honors the contributions of the labor forces globally and serves as a reminder of the ongoing struggles and demands for better working conditions, equitable wages, and social justice in Nigeria, many other countries as well. May Day is a significant event where workers, unions, labor activists come together to celebrate their achievements and push for improvements in labor rights and welfare. Of course, we saw Workers' Day celebrated here in Nigeria in the midst of several protests that we've also seen, the NIMET protests, the labor unions coming out to say, we want our salaries, give us our minimum wage. We saw this happen in the midst of all of that. But I also think it's also important to note what the president, said to Nigerians, saying that we're very resilient people. So I want to urge us to continue to be resilient, and that's all I'm just going to say.
You don't want to be resilient.
I think resilience is
a very important
virtue.
virtue.
In this,
I recall that 6 years ago,
Yeah.
Lagos was listed among the top 100, 7 years ago actually, most resilient, cities in the world. And the words that were used by the I've forgotten the name of the foundation that were used to describe Lagos were very uplifting, that in spite of all the issues, that in spite of all the troubles, Lagos is a resilient city. That's why certain goodies are produced.
You know what? I think that
the
in
president,
spice
this
is
moment,
the
I
key
think
thing,
that part of what the president communicated was to say that I acknowledge all the issues that you are dealing with, but then be resilient. Give us a bit more of time, and then let's ride this together. That's my takeaway from it.
The thing with me, right? And I've been saying this for a very long time. When I was younger in America, I used to say this thing: is that you're either strong or you're either resilient or you're dead. You don't have a choice but to be resilient.
Yeah.
So it's not really. I don't wear resilience or strength with a badge of honor. I tried to leave my house the other day, could not. Road was flooded. Okay, I wanted to order food, but logistics bike said he's not going to come to my area because the road was flooded. And then they took lights. And then the MCN was playing with my life, really. My data wasn't working, could not have my work calls. And I'm trying to talk to people in Uganda and Kenya. I'm not even trying to talk to people in Europe. But I could not because the service was bad. And so what would I do? I have to be resilient. I have to be resilient. I have to wake up and try again the next day. There's no choice.
You don't have a choice.
I don't have a choice but to be resilient. And I think
some people possibly don't see, may not be as strong as you are.
No, I don't think that's the point.
They require some,
but
prodding on.
I don't want to be as strong as I am.
I think that's the point. So there was a video.
I'd rather be in a system that works.
Yeah.
I'd rather not have to.
You don't
actually
have to.
find
Even when the
these
system works, resilience is important.
Okay, so there was a video
but-
that was trending on social media.
Yeah.
Just when the rain started. I think it was just sometime this week, and this woman was crying on social media, and she was saying that she went to pick up her kids. She went out of the house, left her car because everywhere was flooded. And when she came back from work with her kids, her car was, her house had been flooded like up to over past her engine. So the car is gone. And she was crying that, how much more can she bear? Like how much more?
That?
This was here in Lagos, Nigeria. This was in Agungi, to be very specific. And she was saying, how much more can she take? And she was just weeping like she's tired. Now, that woman, would you call her resilient? Because she obviously would wake up the next day. But then she has to go again. So the truth is, Nigerians are resilient people. But resilience for us is not a choice. We don't have a choice. We have to be. It will be nice to know that that woman can go out, come back, her car is intact. She has been resilient in the office to dealing with the number of people she has been resilient.
I get the point.
She comes back home, but she still has a means of transportation to go to work. These are systemic failures that are making her life hard.
Systemic challenges that are there, social, systemic, they're everywhere. Not limited to Nigeria, not limited to Lagos State. And we can't be tired of demanding for more, of asking for better, better system. Sorry? Yeah, that's our job. It's our job to ask. But you see, just to add to the discourse, it's also, the whole idea of Workers' Day. I got your point about May Day when you
May Day.
when you emphasize that. I mean, you don't want to be flying, up there.
And you hear May Day,
or in a cruise ship, and you hear May Day. But then it is also important to interrogate the submissions by the Nigerian Labour Congress. I listened extensively to what Joe Ajero had to say, the president of the NLC, and his excuses as to why it took them time to respond to the decision of the president to go ahead with increase in fuel price when they had agreed that the reason why we will accept 70,000 as minimum wage is because you won't increase price. And I recall the way that people reacted at that time, which is also the way that I see that people have responded to what Joe Ajero said, that you dropped the ball. You fell our hands
100%.
because you refused, to do that which we knew past and previous NLC president to do. You failed at the war front, and then don't come here and giving us excuses, and silly justifications. The time that you were meant, to stand your ground and insist on certain things, you failed woefully. And therefore, I think you should just play less politics and be concerned about the welfare of workers. When it talks about 70,000 cannot do it anymore now, 500,000 cannot even do it, are you speaking for everybody? when you say that you disagree with the bills, the finance bills, that went to the National Assembly, on what basis? Have you studied extensively, the import of those bills, particularly where they seek to protect the interest of workers, moving those who are exempted from paying taxes? Little, small companies, startups from 25 million to 50 million. Those who are not expected to pay even personal income tax if you are not earning to certain things. Not to acknowledge all those things and just be, totally dismissive of the entire bill, to me, shows that this gentleman is still playing politics rather than speaking to the real issues that concern workers on their day. All right, to other matters now. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited has sacked top officials of the National Oil Company barely a month after President Bola Tinubu relieved long-serving Group Chief Executive Officer Mele Kyari of his position. Among those who got the sack include the Chief Upstream Investment Officer, NNPC Upstream Investment Services, Bala Wunti, the Managing Director of Kaduna Refinery, Ibrahim Onoja, and the Chief Compliance Officer and former Managing Director of NNPC Trading, Lawal Shade. The restructuring also affected more than 200 other employees, including lower and middle-class members of staff. I think a lot of people will say, about time, isn't it? Because after Mele Kyari left, you'll be wondering, what are the others, particularly...
What are you doing there,
what are they still doing? Given the realization that is now coming out about Warri Refinery, about Port Harcourt Refinery.
Over $800 million spent on fixing a refinery, and they said it flopped. I now see, my question here is, this is my issue here. Just like we saw with our lovely Emefiele in the CBN, somebody got to go to jail. Somebody got to go to jail. Oh, somebody. My issue here is that we're talking about millions of dollars of Nigeria's money spent, and we have nothing to show for it. We're talking about inefficiency. We're talking about production limits not being reached. We're talking about output limits not being reached. I think there needs to be some type of criminal investigation. It's not just that people are getting fired.
I suspect that is going on.
I would hope to see, yes, but
I hope that
we will see the outcome of it. Yes.
Courage to take it to logical conclusion because of the propaganda, the half-truths, and the outright lies. I mean, NNPC under Mele Kyari organized more or less protests against TV stations who spoke truth to power. Allegedly, of course, allegedly. And we saw what happened. When newspapers, not just TV stations, not just Arise TV station, when newspapers, leading newspapers in Nigeria, uncover, ceaselessly say that it's a lie. What you are feeding to the country is a lie. It's not the truth. We went there, we saw this. It is not working. Come clean to the people, and then they keep denying, they keep issuing press releases. Press releases will not make
internet influencers.
Will not make Warri Refinery work. It will not make Port Harcourt refineries work. We will see if the refineries are working. But of course, we've been fed
these are issues.
Loads and loads of lies.
For me, it's a very mind-boggling issue because my question also then is, how did this happen for so long? How did this continue? Now, while I know that, Mele Kyari at some point in time was the head of the NNPCL, I don't think that he was working alone. 5 good years within that organization. And of course, the press releases, they come very, very swift. Even if, the chief of the press communications hasn't, directly commented on this situation. But the releases always came swift every single time there was a question or there was a backlash. And we have been talking about these refineries. The president has said, listen, by 2030, this is how much output, this is how much barrels of oil per day Nigeria should be producing. And there's so many different legs that make this happen.
I believe this budget is this budget is, I believe, 2 million barrels per day.
3 million by 2030.
Yeah.
And there's so many legs. So I think that the NNPC is such a huge vehicle for this to happen. So while we are investigating the Mele Kyari, I've always found it weird.
And his team.
And these gentlemen,
The
I
MDs
believe
of
the MDs
the
of the
refineries,
Warri,
yes.
Of the
Port
refineries,
Harcourt,
yeah.
of the refineries,
Yes.
I also think it's important just for the sake of public awareness. These people sometimes, why don't they ever feel the need to explain? For instance, you rightly mentioned Emefiele. Wouldn't you just imagine a situation where, because at this point in time, recently, Shebi, he was trying to gain back his houses in Abuja, a house that has over 700.
700 houses.
700 houses. He was trying to get that back. Allegedly. And he couldn't. It would be nice to hear from Emefiele what exactly happened. Because guess what? We always see one person.
I have a feeling that
One person go down.
That if they dig,
I don't think
deeper
Mele Kyari was working
with
alone.
sincerity, what will be unearthed within NNPC will make the Murphy scandals a child's play.
Can I tell you?
Just a wild guess.
Not
Just a
that-
wild guess. But
I think not just would he make that a child's play, it will shake the very foundation of this country. I think it will. No, to be honest, because guess what? Please remind me of the EFCC Magu. Was it not Magu? Do you? Help me. What was the last update we had on that situation?
Well, after Magu, there's been
nice homecoming.
So that's the point I'm trying to make. So the thing is, this is just another snake swallowing money situation. It will not stop. We will not stop hearing of how it's just a matter of when it is time for that information to come to us. So that's why I'm saying we're not just journalists to enjoy the thrill of this person is finally going to be accountable. We want for every single industry, for every single ministry, for every single organization that holds the wealth of Nigeria, they must be held accountable.
And NNPC
And there must
is
be
different because
consequences
of the
for
position.
every single person.
NNPC is the cash cow of the country.
Of course it is.
And there are peers globally, Saudi Aramco,
And they should
all the
also
other people,
frustrate
Brazil.
the private organizations who are equally vehicles to ensuring that our barrels of oil per day. There's so much corruption going on. It's ridiculous.
So at the end of the day, what this says to the people is that Mele Kyari's term is gone. It should be investigated. I guess he's been investigated, but then we have an Ojulari there. And therefore, he has his, a job cut out for him, and he shouldn't just disappoint Nigerians. I think that is important, to emphasize.
Definitely. Well, on to a rather depressing story. At least 26 people, including women and children, who were killed on Monday when a truck that they were traveling in struck a roadside bomb in Borno State, northeast of Nigeria, near the Cameroon border. The explosion occurred close to the town of Ran, a community already burdened by over 50,000 displaced persons fleeing jihadist violence. A military source confirmed the casualties, while local residents described scenes of devastation, with victims burnt beyond recognition and mass burials conducted hours after the blast. Though no group has claimed responsibility, suspicion falls on jihadist factions of Boko Haram or the Islamic State of West Africa Province, ISWAP, both of which operate in this area and have intensified attacks in recent weeks. Now, last week, we obviously spoke about Nigeria being number 6 in the global terrorism index. This is being the 6th worst country in the world when it comes to terrorism violence. And this story just really highlights that.
It does highlight it. And this is part of the reason why I mentioned the other time that as president and commander-in-chief, Katsina should just be the starting point. Borno should be next, as indeed Benue, Plateau, Zamfara, all the, key areas, where issues of insecurity are top-notch, particularly at this time. I think it's Mr. Kayode Komolafe who used to say that don't let us just concern ourselves with issues of re-election and politics. It's still more than 2 years away. What about the issues of governance? What about the issues of insecurity? Don't let us just be fixated with who is defecting, who is coming, who is leaving, who is moving. But then what can the president do? What is the national security advisor, who is a northerner, by the way, doing? Why is Borno such a naughty, issue? The other time we've been seeing videos going around of deliberate, what looked like accidents, when cars will ram into some people that are of certain religious.
There was an incident recently, and they said that they believe that the man did do that intentionally.
Yeah. Exactly.
But when we're talking about jihadist violence, because, you know, I've always been trying to stress this, because yes, we must hold our president responsible, but also, you know, we're talking about a problem that has spread across the Sahel, and that is when the importance and the import of our foreign ambassador, the importance of our relationship with Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Chad really comes into focus, because this is a problem that has spread across the Sahel region. And if we're talking about proliferation of these jihadist movements, proliferation of violence, proliferation of terrorism, for me, it's not really, again, about the president going to visit Borno State, because even the Benin Republic has had, I think, a major loss of lives in the security apparatus. Just last week, over 70 members of the armed forces were killed by terrorists. So this is something that's affecting our whole region. And typically, what is expected is that Nigeria and the Nigerian president will take a leadership role in this. And, you know, our president was the president of ECOWAS also when the three countries left and formed their own organization or association of Sahel states. But so this situation that we're facing, for me, is it comes as a critical point, you know, in our history, and we have to determine, is West Africa really just going to become the epicenter of terrorism and violence?
And that's just a hint right there to that question. Well, let's take a look at what's happening in partisan politics. The governor of Delta State, Sheriff Oboreviri, and his predecessor in office, Dr. Ifeanyi Okowa, earlier this week led the entire state structure of the People's Democratic Party to defect to the All Progressives Congress. They have also been formally received into their new political party. Political analysts say the move is a historic one that could mark the end of PDP's 26-year dominance in the oil-rich state. Arise correspondent Jemima Boloko reports.
In a dramatic political earthquake, Delta State Governor Sheriff Oboreviri and former Governor Ifeanyi Okowa officially crossed over to the ruling All Progressive Congress Party. Before a mammoth crowd at the cenotaph in Asaba, the Delta State capital, Vice President Kashim Shettima, APC National Chairman Abdullahi Ganduje, and other party heavyweights, including former Deputy Senate President Ovi Omar Agege, formally welcomed the defectors. Describing the move as a movement, not a defection, Oboreviri says the switch is fueled by what he calls President Bola Tinubu's organic love for Delta State.
You have come, I've seen, Mr. President, Vice President. What you have seen here today is a movement. It's not a defection. It's a movement. We have done consultation with the National Assembly, with leadership, with stakeholders at the state level, at the senatorial level, at the local government level, at the ward level. And we all decided.
Your Excellencies Governor Sheriff Francis Orewodo Oboreviri and former Governor Ifeanyi Okowa and the other great men and women we welcome to the APC today. I bring with them the warm assurance of His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu GCFR and all members of the APC. You are not guests in this house. You are now co-owners.
APC, we believe in progressive ideas. We believe in proximity, interacting with different levels of our party. Now it is my honor and privilege to hand over this flag and our symbol, the broom, to this great man who has now come into our great party APC.
We are here to identify with him, and we are here also to assure the good people of Delta State that this decision is the wisest decision that will leave this state from where you are now to the next level.
All state lawmakers, local government chairmen and councillors joined the mass migration, collapsing the PDP's 26 years hold on the oil-rich state. Former governor and PDP vice presidential candidate Ifeanyi Okowa echoes the sentiment, calling it a bold, patriotic and necessary step to realign Delta's future with Abuja.
As I did tell people that day, it was not about me. It was not about the governor, but the fact that there is a need for us to connect to Abuja. That goodwill that is in Abuja, that resource that is in Abuja, of which Delta State is a large contributor, there was a need to connect to it.
The defection sends shockwaves across Nigeria's political landscape just 2 years before the pivotal 2027 elections. The people of Delta also react to this defection.
It's an irony for the governor to decamp no matter what happens. The possibility is that he will not go for second term. It doesn't matter because he was once a speaker and now a governor. So we cannot make Nigeria one party state where there's no opposition. It's wrong. I was totally against that decamping.
Because of the person that put you in that seat, move to APC, you now move to APC. For what? It's not good. You are not teaching us, you are not leading us in a good way. So that's the only thing. I let him go back to PDP. That's what we want.
With the Delta State stronghold and now under APC's control, attention shifts to how this realignment will reshape political strategies nationwide as 2027 elections draw closer. Jemima Boloko, Arise News, Asaba, Delta.
All right, that was Jemima Boloko in Delta State. So a few things. One, it's interesting how we already kind of know what 2027 is going to be. There's been a lot of conversation around political alignments, defections, strategies being put in place. But democracy is government of the people, by the people, for the people, right? Yeah. The people vote, the people, the leader. Textbook definition, because of course in Nigeria, democracy is anything but. Well, let's just leave that for another day. Textbook definition, but that is even the origin. Vimbai the other day gave a very beautiful analogy of what democracy means in its, or democratos, and it's actually people and power. Yeah. So it's power to the people, but that's a different thing entirely.
That's the slogan of the PDP.
That is it, power to the people. Exactly, right? Now, the people vote, but clearly it looks like 2027 will be anything but, because in all of this, we heard the people and we heard the governor. Well, the former governor, the people said, I don't know, I'm not quite sure what's going on here. And he said, no, I'm doing this for the people. So my question now is, come 2027 again, is there any point of people going out to vote? Because clearly it looks like 2027 has already been decided for the people. That is one. Second, just before you come in on this conversation, Okowa gave several reasons as to why he decided to defect. Specifically, one of them being he was governor for 8 years and it was very tough because they did not have access to resources, and he felt like aligning with the power of the day will give the people of Delta the much needed resources that they need. And while that is absolutely correct, is that what governance should be about? So does that mean that we can only have one party, and if we have a governor from another party, chances are that state is going to suffer, because that is the impression that he is giving us right now. He also talked about how he wasn't aligning with his base when he worked with when he came out as a vice presidential candidate with Atiku, to say that, the people didn't really want the North, but I ignored them. So this is me saying I regret working with Atiku at all. There are also people like, Dele Momodu, who was on the show this week, on the morning show, who said, no, this has nothing to do with...
Journalist Dele Momodu.
Journalist Dele Momodu, who came out and said, he's like, this is not a state's business. This is personal. This is absolutely personal. It is, and also there's also whispers of, it'd be like, say there's 1 or 2 EFCC cases here and there that somebody might also be trying to evade. My question is, where do the people come into play in this 2027 conversation? Because it's starting to look like a video game. Like we are just here watching a movie, and come 2027, we'll just be looking like this, and they will give us where am I?
My thing is that I think we need to keep motivating people to be active citizens
Yes.
and active when it comes to our democracy, and not be like, you know what, so 2027 has not been written by anybody. We are not God, and neither are the politicians.
Absolutely.
But also, we're also thinking people. We're also thinking people. So, you know, for Ifeanyi Okowa to tell us that it was difficult for him as a PDP governor under an APC president, and then for him to then move to the APC after he's left office, sir, the governing is over. You're a private citizen, you know. Ifeanyi Okowa's job it's not very different from
I
that
think he's
of
trying to just
any
let us know
other
that his influence
leader.
is still...
Yes, but also, you know, if he's going to say that he was not aligning with his people by running as the vice presidential candidate for Atiku Abubakar, and therefore had to leave the PDP because he did not align with his people on this issue, then I would say that the logical conclusion would be to go to the Labour Party, because that's where his people voted for. His people voted for the Labour Party, if I'm not mistaken. And so, you know, when we, and I understand, you know, a politician has to make their message popular. It has to make it seem as though it is about the people or it's for the people. This clearly looks to me like an issue of personal interest. And I was looking at that stage and I was so fascinated, because on that same stage we have Festus Keyamo, the minister, and we also have the former, we have Omo Agege, who was a former senator. And all these people have personal ambitions, which I imagine are going to come to a head, you know, at some point in time, even in the run-up to 2027, in the run-up to the Delta State governorship elections, or even 2031, whenever it is. We have a lot of people who have personal interests that do not align. And so we have a very big ship taking on a lot of big men. I don't know how steady the sailing is going to be.
Well, I mean, I like the last part of it. I'm sure we'll wait for Comrade Alex Eyengo, who is coming in shortly, to come and discuss, you know, the issues of politics in the state. But for me, it didn't come to me as a surprise. What was surprising would be that Delta, because I wouldn't say that I saw any imminent danger to a state like Delta, or even to a state like Akwa Ibom, which might be next, you know, from the readings that we have of what is going on. But for me, my reading would be that the ship of the PDP, the party that ruled for 16 years, that promised that it will rule for 60 years, it has already hit the iceberg. And it's just a matter of time before rows and jags that are remaining in the ship will either sink or swim. You know, and you know what happened at the end of the day in the Titanic. But then it's also not new.
I love your reference, by the way. Like Titanic, how do you bring that into Nigerian politics?
But that's the whole point.
But
that's
Titanic.
About ships
That's
a very iconic ship.
It's a shipwreck, isn't it?
You are that book you wrote on cinema.
Have you forgotten that at a time in this country, PDP controlled 31 out of 36 states?
Yeah.
Leaving only
Titanic
one.
Was an unsinkable
only one.
ship.
Absolutely.
It's a very.
That's the very
very
apt. Give me that.
I'm going to give you one as well. That was a very apt, you know.
And you know when you eat the iceberg, you don't sink immediately.
Yeah.
You will.
I am not praying for PDP to sink. I think that it is important that there is opposition in the country. Part of why, you know, which is an interesting discourse, why the man that they are now all drawn to, because he's in the position of power, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, why his case is different from theirs is because against all the turbulence, against all the issues in those days, he remained. That's why at the point they were calling him Okholomo and Okholawon, because he was the only one. PDP cleared 5 out of 6, you know, ACN, AD states in the Southwest. People were jumping up and down. 31 states. When Jonathan was leaving in 2015, PDP had 22 states. Now they have barely 10. It looks like they will approach the election in 2027 with about 6 or 7 or 5.
You know why I love the imagery you've given us? Because the Titanic's sister ship was the Britannic, I believe.
Britannic.
And it also sank, didn't it?
It is.
Okay then. Yeah. That's like PDP, APC.
Okay.
That's a valid point.
We have to move to our next story now. Well, meanwhile, over on the United States, President Donald Trump has promised that he was just getting started as he marks the radical and vengeful beginning to a presidency that has shaken the world and destabilized several aspects of public life in the United States. Basking in the adulation of cheering supporters in Michigan, Trump touted the most successful first 100 days of administration in the history of America, even as polls show that Americans are becoming disenchanted with the economic and political turmoil. Trump said he missed the campaign trail and launched with visible relish at a speech that sounded more like that of a candidate than a head of state. The president promised to conclude deals on trade, but provided little in the way of details.
And we're here tonight in the heartland of our nation to celebrate the most successful first 100 days of any administration in the history of our country. And that's according to many, many people. You know, we had a group of radical left guys who were very smart, and a woman, a particular woman. Very, very smart people. These are not stupid people. These are sick people, but they're not stupid people. And also, we cannot allow a handful of communist, radical left judges to obstruct the enforcement of our laws and assume the duties that belong solely to the President of the United States. Judges are trying to take away the power given to the President to keep our country safe, and it's not a good thing. We will cut more than $1 trillion in wasteful and unnecessary spending. And in the next fiscal year, it'll all be done. We're going to have something that you won't even believe. We will end inflation, slash prices. We've already ended inflation, raise wages, and give you the greatest economy in the history of the world. That's already...
I think the House Minority Leader, Hakeem Jeffries, really hit the nail on his head when he said that the first 100 days has been about chaos, corruption, and cruelty. And you know, Trump in that rally, he's talking about the commies, the left wing, even a Trump-appointed federal judge from Texas of all places, you know, said that he wrongly invoked the Aliens Act when he's deporting people without due process. For me, America has always had its problems, which is why I ran away. You know, but ultimately, there are certain things and certain signals that America is supposed to send at the leader of the free world, as America loves to call itself. And part of that is that due process is followed, that the Constitution is respected, even to the very least when it comes to American citizens and people within its borders. And so Trump has actually removed the film from all of our eyes, and he's thrown everybody's rose-colored glasses away. And he has actually embarked on 100 days of cruelty, corruption, and chaos. And it seems like some of his chaos agents are even already running away due to their own problems. Elon Musk has reportedly packed out of the White House as Tesla is losing a lot, 70%, I believe, of their profits have reduced by 70%. Yes. And so, you know, his national security advisor, who was doing signal chats, and they have pictures of him in cabinet briefings looking at these signal chats, I believe has also been removed from his position. Yeah. But, you know, for me, I think I saw the New York Times reporting on what stands out for you the most, about what's the moment of the first 100 days that stands out for you. And some people are talking about the picture of the Homeland Security advisor standing in front of these men who had been deported to El Salvador. Some people are talking about the president of El Salvador, who's supposed to be this big bad guy, saying that he felt uncomfortable by people just being brought here even without them actually being convicted as criminals. And some people said, you know, it's about maybe Elon Musk standing in the White House. But for me, something that stands out to me the most about this first 100 days, and I think something we're going to go back to and look at it as a signal of the time, is really about Trump, about this, is the video of the deportation, and they say ASMR. And
ASMR.
Yes.
It's like a way of enjoying a video through sound.
Yes. And what I think
senses.
that really shows me is this dehumanization that we are now dealing with not just when it comes to America, but when it comes to Gaza, when it comes to Nigeria, that you can see a headline, 20 killed, 16 killed, 18 killed, and people have normalized this dehumanization, this stripping of our humanity. And for me, that is what's going to stand out about this Trump administration, particularly from what we've seen in the first 100 days.
Absolutely.
We have to go, right?
Yeah, we do.
I believe. Do you have something to say?
You just a
I
line.
mean, I think you just put it, you just hit the nail on the head, to be very honest.
That's the summation.
That is the
but
summation.
Then, 100 Days of Chaos, but then when you look at that song,
which was like the
God Bless America, God Bless America, isn't it?
Mm.
I mean, it reminds me, for me, of Timi Dakulu's...
We're all we have.
Absolutely. When things are down and it looks like, you know, it's all doom and chaos, let a song at least bring out the best in terms of nationality, you know, in you. Let's hope that America will survive what is happening. It's only 100 days.
Wow.
Let's roll.
I think that was a fantastic segment we just had this morning, and that's all we have for you on the week that was.